Hi everyone. So I've been playing some Days Gone, the remaster that just came out on the Steam Deck, and that's with the new Broken Road DLC. And I've seen a couple of people saying that this remaster seems to be a lot heavier on the GPU in comparison to the previous version, which was not enhanced, which is correct. So there is a little bit of performance issues on this remaster when comparing it to the old one, but I've managed to get a mostly locked 40 FPS, and what we're going to do is we're going to lock that down on the Steam Deck itself, and the GPU seems at a reasonable sort of measure at the moment. So when I'm in the game, it's just under 90. It never really goes over 90, so it will use a considerable amount of your battery, but the graphics themselves are pretty good. So I'm going to show you the graphics first of all now, and then what we'll do is we'll go into the in-game settings for Days Gone Remastered, and then what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Steam OS settings that we'll have to also set up. So you can see I've got the Steam overlay on the top at the moment. So we've got the FPS counter, we've got the CPU, the GPU, the RAM, the VRAM, and then the battery. And for most Steam Deck users is pretty self-explanatory, but I just want to explain that for someone who might be new to a Steam Deck. And then, so we've got the new Days Gone here. I've already got this running, and I'm actually running it with the new version of Proton 1.0-1, the beta. If you need a video on how to get Proton working, I can do that, but I think there's plenty of them on YouTube currently. So yeah, let's go into this game. It's going to be hard for me to play it because I'm holding I tried to record this on my Steam Deck itself, but it didn't have any of the overlays. So I'm going to do it with my phone recording, and then we're just going to talk through some settings. So I'm just going to boot up the game. Just give that a second to load. Just turn my brightness up a little bit so you can't see my face. Okay. So I've turned off the audio just so you can hear me. But you can see here we're just exploring around, and we're at 40 FPS, which is a good sign. And the GPU is below 90. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it at this point. You could, in theory, if you want to, lock this to 30 FPS and increase the graphics a little bit more, but then my preference is to have a bit more. 40 FPS is a good sweet point. I find 30 a bit too low, but 40 frames per second on the Steam Deck is really good. And when we look into the settings in a minute, you can see which settings we use and why. So yeah, this is a really good looking game. I don't know if it really comes through on the recording. We're getting attacked there. Try and kill this guy. But yeah, a really stunning game. Anyway, let's go to the settings. Let me just focus this so it's on the screen. So we go to options. So these are all the defaults. Audio, default. Right, and then when we come to the display, you want your window mode on full screen windowed, the resolution set to 800p, the refresh rate as 90. I'm going to turn VSync off, and we're going to set the frame rate limiter to 60. And for myself, I have the Steam Deck OLED, so that is able to use HDR, which looks great, so I have that enabled as well. The gameplay settings, we're just leaving them on default, but there's some things you can mess around with in here. So the graphics, I have the field of view set to 80, just increased it slightly because I like to see a bit more. The render scale at 100, I think that's the default. This is a setting that's really up to you, to be honest, if you want that enabled or not. Motion blur, it's not my sort of thing, so I tend to turn it off. Lighting quality is bound to the GPU, so it causes a lot of issues, so it will cause a lot of frame drops. And like I was saying earlier, we want this GPU to be under 90 if possible. We don't want it to be losing frames, we want it to be a locked 40 FPS experience. So we're going to leave that at low. Geometry quality on medium, foliage draw distance on medium, shadow qualities again is one of these settings that I've noticed that can cause problems. So again, this one's on low, but that's not a problem. You can see most of these settings are a mix of medium and low, which is great really with the remaster. Cloud and fog on medium, texture filter quality on medium, texture streaming quality on medium, and HDR brightness. Again, this is just because I've got the OLED, but the peak brightness of the OLED is 1000 nits. So if you do have a Steam Deck OLED, this is what you want to set it up as. So that's for the graphics itself. Another thing that we need to do in the Steam Deck UI is we need to bring up the overlay, and then we need to come to this performance tab and make sure it's on, well, it doesn't need to be set to number 2. That's what you can change on the top, so you can see the FPS counter alone, or you can see some more metrics like that. And you can see the Days Gone profile is here, which I've enabled. We set the frame limit to 40 frames per second, which is the best in my experience with the Steam Deck. 40 FPS for these sort of games is perfect. And these settings we have not really touched, just left them as it is. So yeah, that's the settings that I've got configured on the Steam Deck, and I've been through some pretty heavy sort of GPU areas in the game, and it seems to be locked at 40 for most of the time. This is a game that can get a bit crazy with all the zombie hordes, so you can expect it to drop a little bit, but for the main experience, it's a solid 40 FPS title. So if you're interested in playing the new remaster for Days Gone, give these settings a go and let me know what you think. Thanks.